Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining today. We are back on the Coxton sub here on the west side of Coxton. And here we are working on building two industries today in this video. We're going to work on the scrapyard called Forney Scrap. And then we are going to work on the grain terminal here over on the east side of this yard here after that. So there are three major railroads in Coxton. There is, of course, the Cotton Belt, which is our primary railroad and the focus of our route. We also have an interchange with the Louisville and Nashville, which is this area here. And then we have an interchange with the Santa Fe. Now, I have talked quite a bit about these different railroads, but the only reason I brought that up is to remind you that they exist, plus also to use it as a segue to discuss the fact that every major railroad here in Coxton has its own grain terminal. So that's why we have one over here for the Louisville and Nashville. Most of these grain terminals, I don't really have a specific way that they're used, but essentially the way I imagined that I would route cars to them is basically cars that are loaded on this route with any sort of, particular grain, oats, barley, wheat, corn, those kinds of things. They can go take their loads to the grain terminal to be dumped, and then as these interchanging railroads come in, they can load their own cars if they would like from the grain terminal and create more of a unit train kind of concept. The terminals don't really have enough space to truly make a unit train out of them, but it does at least allow you, if you'd like, to kind of create the concept of basically being a center of storing freight to ship out on these different railroads. So I don't usually really get that specific, so I'm not too worried about it, but that's at least the idea behind each major railroad having its own grain terminal. So here we are at Forney Scrap, and just throwing some different things out there in the yard to add a bit of variety. There are quite a few good scrap assets on the download station. Most of what you're looking at right now is either built in or from the download station. You can see my filters on the top left. I'm not using any payware and not using anything that's packaged. Packaged stuff can also be great, but sometimes that means it came with a payware or with a certain DLC set, and I hate to have a route where I find out when people download it or whatever that they need like 10 different DLCs to be able to run it, because you need like one item from each one. I think that's ridiculous. So that's why I try to stay away from payware and from packaged assets now that I am specifically working on a route with the intent to distribute. So just trying to get some clutter here around the yard and make it look like it has quite a bit of junk, which makes sense since it's a scrap yard. Most of the scrap that will be shipped out will be different forms of metal scrap that you can take to the mill to be melted down. There's also the opportunity to ship out, plastic waste, rubber waste, those kinds of things, tires and all that stuff to be recycled. So you can more or less ship out any kind of waste or scrap load from here that you would like. It's up to you. But I have at least thrown enough junk in there that you can get metal, fabrics, plastics, rubber, any of those things. So I know that this right here is a rock crusher, but I was like, you know what? I've been to enough scrap yards grabbing parts for fixing cars and stuff, and for other reasons that I know that they have these big machines that break stuff down and crush it. Now, since I have not yet found an asset on the download station that is of one of those machines, I decided I would use the rock crusher, and honestly, it looks good enough to me. I'm not really worried about it. When you guys get the route, if it bothers you that much, you can always just delete it, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Obviously want to throw some bulk trailers under there to catch the scrap as it is crushed, then used or thrown through the conveyor. And, it's nice to have a little feature where you've got a dump truck that's unloading. So pretty nice little thing. I did extend the tracks here, so I need to go in and update the spreadsheet to represent the longer length of those tracks. That means now we can accommodate more gondolas. So that's awesome. And here we're going to go ahead and kind of get most of the paved area in, get that all nice and detailed. I do love to use those city street PBR textures. They are just absolutely fantastic. And, when you scatter them out enough, it creates enough variation that you can't really tell that it's the same 4 or 5 assets. Unless, of course, you know that, which you do now. We will add some Turfex now, get all the short and long grass in place around the edges, and then kind of throw some here overlapping throughout the tracks and the little dirt track there. So that dirt path is exclusively property of the Louisville Nashville. That is for accessing their little fuel depot. That is not a public roadway, so I'm not too worried about it being, any sort of high quality. So if it's quite perfectly how it fits in there. So once we get the long grass thrown in, throw in some wildflowers later, and then start adding the trees and bushes here along the fence line. This is one of the key details that just make your fence lines look far more realistic, is just to get some clutter going on around them. Speaking of clutter, I have decided I want to make a new Turfex setup, and it's going to be a clutter basically, so Turfex plus clutter. And I want to look at the assets they have and get some different things to try to create some ground cover for, areas that aren't well kept, or maybe if they have the right assets, I can make one that's got some junk in it, stuff like that. And so I want to explore a bit about that. And once I get some of that stuff made, I'll use it in the route sometime, and then I'll make sure to point it out and see if you guys like it. So one of the cutscenes here later shows off some of the Turfex effects that we've got here, and I just personally think they look extravagant, and I'm extremely happy. So now we are moving over to the grain terminal. So just wanted to throw some asphalt down, some, I guess you can call it gravelly asphalt. It's not like dark asphalt, so it doesn't have a lot of bitumen in it. But I just wanted to get that out there. Once again, throwing down some of the City Street PBR textures to kind of make it look not the same. I don't like repeated textures constantly. And then going to go ahead and remove some of the Turfex that was on the area I just painted. Get a fence going on, and then get the property here delineated. So I might come back and move this road later. It's definitely a bit close to the tracks there, but I will be honest, I have been to areas where the tracks do come up just literally that close to the road. So it's not, unlike the prototype. It's just, I may or may not keep it like that. We'll see. Wanted to change a bit of the elevation there just to get some variation. I don't like perfectly flat scenes unless that's what the prototype has. Growing up here in Texas and living in parts of North Texas, there are some areas that are literally just that flat. But this is the Mississippi Valley, which I also know is extremely flat. But right next to the river, there can be quite a bit of variation in altitude. So I wanted to change that up. Just throwing some bushes and clutter down, get a couple trees in there, get the fence all lined up so they can look better. And then we'll do the placement of all the trucks. And this part is especially going to look nice for this industry because thanks to David Snow, there are a lot of nice grain bulk trailers out there. So they look fantastic. Definitely wanted to throw the Turfex and clutter over the track here since it's just literally a hardly ever used siding. So that's the beauty of Turfex, is you don't really see the details unless you get close, and that is exactly what I want. I like high detail close to the track. Went ahead and put the building on the layer there that I called buildings so that it won't move as I try to adjust these things around. That's especially useful for buildings with really big hitboxes. You don't want to try to turn these things and then have to fight with the program always choosing the bigger object. So just getting these all turned around. Basically the idea here is the trucks come in and they make a nice little loop here in the open space, and then they cart themselves in and either load or unload their cargo depending on what their role is. So since this is a grain terminal, it does receive and ship loads of grain. And, grain can include wheat, barley, oats, corn, any of those things. So you can be that specific if you'd like to, and you don't have to be that specific. It's up to you. But the idea here is some of these are coming in loaded and they're dumping. Some of them are coming in empty and they are loading up to head to, different industries to process the food or whatnot. So I envision it where most of these are coming in loaded and they're going to dump, and we're really just going to ship the grains out in the railroad covered hoppers. So that's really personally what I envision. But of course, hey, you can make that however you like. So, but definitely really enjoyed this scene after it was finished. I think it looked great. There's always a few details you can add here and there and that I could add as well. But for now, I'm rolling through with this, and I think it looks good. It communicates the idea, without saturating the location too much and without me spending 15 hours of my life super detailing things. I do like things that have a good level of detail. I'm not usually into this crazy amount of super detail. I just don't like the time spent doing that. Eye candy is great at times, but it's not always my thing. So it's a healthy mix, I think, personally. But I know that, everybody has their own opinion on that, and I could ask 10 people and get 12 opinions. So it just is what it is. But Here we're just throwing in a little warehouse just to fill in some space. I just add a fence and call it a day. I will definitely add some more detail to that later, but not right now. So I'm just going to get the fence lined up and a little more turf X and some hills, and that's it. But we're going to wrap this video up here soon. So thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more stuff coming out. I am going to do a video here pretty soon where we kind of operate these industries and talk a bit about operations using the Louisville-Nashville on the Coxton sub. So there are quite a few options there. If you like the Louisville-Nashville, this could be a thing for you to do. But stay tuned for that coming up pretty soon. And till then, I always appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch you guys next time. Stay good out there. We'll see you.